So now is the time for the panel discussion, the topic for which is reimagining brand trust in the digital era. Let me quickly introduce our panelists to you in no particular order. Mr. Deepak Gulati, Chief Marketing and Innovation Officer, Bridgestone India. Sir has 25 years of rich international experience across geographies like Southeast Asia, Japan, West Africa, and India. He has also worked in leadership positions across industries in blue chip organizations. Sir's diverse experience across industries, geographies, and culture make him well suited to lead transformation journeys in today's disruptive times. We have Ms. Neha Bisht, founder and CEO, Blue Buzz. Ma'am is the quintessential powerhouse, self-made woman entrepreneur who's changing the landscape of PR and marketing communication with her agency, Blue Buzz. We also have Mr. Shrishel Deshnur, Head Consumer Marketing and Patent Initiatives, CIPLA. Sir has experience in managing ATL and BTL marketing campaigns, digital marketing, media planning, PR, research, and product management. We also have Mr. Vishal Sharma, Director Sales and Marketing Raymond Limited. Sir has been recognized as top 50 marketing minds in the country in 2021 by Exchange for Media Group. Sir has worked as operation leader in various MNCs. We also have Dr. Ravindra Utkigar, Vice President, Corporate Marketing and Strategies, Praj Industries. Dr. Utkigar holds a doctorate in management. His research thesis revolves around renewable energy and strategies for entry and growth in international marketing. The panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Sanjay Bhale, our faculty from Indira Institute of Management, Pune.
So good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, sir. Madam as well. So the branding phenomena has been evolving, and it has evolved very fast recently. Do you find any new set of capabilities that needs to be harassed, or rather rejuvenated, rather we can say, and digital innovation can be, it can instill a new device in rebranding any particular situation?
Hello, yeah, thank you. First of all, I think all of you have seen some wonderful presentations since morning, and your heads must be full with some very simple stuff and some complicated stuff. So what I would say is the world around us is changing. I think we all see it, we all see it in our lives, and it is happening due to confluence of a lot of digital technologies. So the way we run our operations, the way we deliver value to customers, everything is changing. But what is not changing is also fundamentals of brand building. So if you go back to some of the presentations today, discussions today, it's actually the simplicity of doing things. And if we stay simple, we can build strong brands. But how we do things and how we do the marketing, that's where complex things like MarTech are coming, and we need to evolve along with that. So I would say future is changing, but it's a combination of things which are the same as in fundamentals and things which are changing thanks to technology.
There has been a huge technological divide or demographic divide as well, and it is sometimes being difficult to reach to that particular segment, and viable segment, we should say. So how really this digital branding or the review process can really enhance to suture to the right segment of that particular customer?
Okay, so when we look at today where we are, in last couple of years, we've all, or perhaps a larger part of us, have moved towards technology. Before that, it was still a choice, but now that has become a way of life. In fact, I was just speaking to one of the co-speakers who also spoke about how today food is being ordered, what are kids perceiving. So from that perspective, I think digital is only solving the problems in many ways. And if I see, like, I have a mother-in-law who today does most of her payments online. Even vegetables are bought online. And I have a mother who's still struggling or who does not want to learn, sort of digital perhaps. She's very comfortable with the way things were done earlier, and she wants to stick to it. So that divide is perhaps there. I think what is slowly changing is that people are warming up to the fact, at least If we look at even India for that matter, you know, if metros picked up technology faster, even in rural areas now, online payments have become, you know, very, very popular. Even today, rickshaw walas take online payments. Tea sellers, you know, Venkatesh mentioned. So yeah, so that divide is there, and I think it's very interesting to see because while we are moving towards online, the brand trust is increasing because we're also seeing how they're solving for our problems. You know, everything's just a click away.
Everything is at the click away, she said. Do you find any paradigm shift in fundamentals of branding so far at corporate level, business level, and functional level as well?
Thank you. Good afternoon. So I think Mr. Gulati put it very well that some fundamentals have not changed and will never change. At the root of the brand is a strong promise. Promise what you deliver and deliver what you promise. What will never change is products are born on shop floor, brands are born in your mind, right? So in my mind, this digital evolution doesn't pose a question whether the conventional methods of brand building will be taken over by digital. It's not a or gate, it's or and gate. It's this and that. It is not this or that. So to my mind, a unique value proposition that differentiates your offering, irrespective of sector that you operate in, irrespective of whether you are a product company or a service company, B2B, B2C, B2G, some fundamentals will always remain. Yes, the digital evolution, and I think somebody spoke of industry 1, 2, 3, 4, industry 5.0 where we are talking about cobots, right? Collaborative robots where, you know, the tactical things are done by robots, which is automation, and transformative things are done by human beings, which will create that kind of an impact. So at the root of all this industrial revolution, brand will continue to be a main differentiator purely because in a hyper competition, there is era of falling product life cycle, there is an era of falling product differentiations. The only thing that can differ between brand to brand is a customer experience that you can create, number one, and how you can deliver on your promise. So to my mind, fundamentals have always been there and they will always continue to be there.
Sure. So fundamentals has been, remaining the same. But is it really difficult to generate or retain the customer intimacy? Because one of the speakers said, customer intimacy is quite important, to retain that. Customer engagement and customer intimacy as well. But still there is the fluctuating degree of trust we find because there is a fragmentation of media through which the customer get attached to that particular brand. So do you find any solution here or do you foresee any solution of this particular challenge itself as an opportunity?
Well, I see, let's look at our own example.
Sir.
Right? Supposing you're on a shopping site of Amazon or Flipkart, what do? You look at the brand pitch or the brand promise, but also you scroll down to see what are other people talking about it, right? Which is very, very important because this is validation that as a customer you need. So today when, in the earlier days where what we used to call as word of mouth is now becoming so easily accessible to the potential customer because of the entire digital thing. And brand should see this as a huge opportunity. So they were initially when this entire thing started of social media, brands were scared because it was uncontrolled. People didn't know what reviews or what feedback customers are going to put in and how it can possibly impact the overall brand. But wherever there is a huge challenge, there's also a huge opportunity along with it. So in fact, brands should now go look at reversing this and possibly foster more feedback and reviews coming in. Because the believability and the trust is definitely going to increase if customers or users share their own personal experience and create a social voice that's very, very critical for building a brand, either digitally or physically, any which ways. And even so important, typically if you get negative review, instead of shying away or hiding from it, use that as an opportunity and see how a brand can respond back. Because if you really look at, are people really, ensure that 100% product performance? May not be, because in this world, sometimes things might fail. But a true brand is not about 100% delivery. A true brand is about those misses that happens. How does a brand go back, genuinely solve that problem and address? Because when people see that a brand has solved the problem, they possibly are going to trust the brand even more further than what is being shown as advertisement. So I think in today's world, customer validation that comes from reviews is very, very important to build brand trust.
Do you think that, so many reviews are there, so many platforms are there, customers mostly they are writing positive reviews, okay. But is there any gap, to see the degree of validity, to really harness that deliability of the brand? Do you see any particular scope here that's validity of that particular experience or that reviews is not always true sometimes? Do you think it's quite a big challenge when we talk about the technological aspect of branding?
See, first and foremost, in Raymond we have this philosophy which, irrespective of the level, that's taught on day one, that you need to trust your customer. Because your customer is your own wife, own son, own daughter, own family members, and you are the customer. If you don't trust yourself, you will never trust anyone else. And in fact, there are many companies whose success is actually made on the bedrock of customer trust, in fact. Just to give you an example, I don't know if any one of you knows this, but in Amazon, for that matter, even in internal meetings, forget about external meetings, in internal meetings also they keep one chair vacant always, and they call it as customer chair. Why? Because they want everything to be discussed, keeping customer in focus. So as far as online reviews are concerned, see, online, yes, people leave a lot of reviews, people read also all those reviews, but I don't know how much you can take it on face value, but I feel you need to trust whatever is written. You need to put customer right in center, make your strategies according to customer first, and that is something which going forward you have to deal with. Like one of the panel members just now, a few minutes back, he had such a lovely presentation on AI and technology and so on and so forth. Going forward, that will become the world actually. You won't be able to sell your product on a brick and mortar model. You will need a lot of online tools, and one of the online tool is also based on your online reputation. And there are softwares, there's technology, there are expert people who can manage your online reputation really well. So I think so that is how it is going to be in future.
Right. When we talk about the product developments, which percolate down to brand development as well, the product life cycle itself, it has shrunk very, very short, and the experience curve is also very short, How really it becomes very difficult to adjust that particular space whenever, the branding, so-called, branding falls into that gambit. Sir, this question is open to everybody.
Sure. Anybody else want to take it?
Anybody.
No, so I think it's a great point. Yeah, everybody understands that product life cycles are falling. Everybody understands that there are product emittents that are coming. Everybody understands that leader has more to give than to take. So there will be people who will copy not only product but your delivery model, business model, service models. The only way you can stay ahead of the game is by way of, number one, innovation. And when you say innovation, it is a overarching term. It could be process innovation, it could be product innovation, it could be business model innovation, it could be creative financing, it could be a superior experience, and you will always have to keep going up the curve, because the minute your competitors are seeing that this model is working, they are going to imitate. Now mind you, the cost of innovation is very high. But that's exactly what it is. So you cannot service from the lowest end of the customer segment to the highest end of the customer segment. So you have to pick and choose your target. We call STP, right? Segmentation, targeting, positioning. So as long as you have a sweet spot where you can, your customer segment wants it, you can do it, and it falls outside the competitor delivery place, you are in a sweet spot. But that sweet spot is perpetually moving because others will try to get in and you move up the ante. So my thing is, you have to always stay loyal to the customer segment that you are targeting and deliver and keep modifying your proposition and delivering proposition, of course, to stay ahead of the curve. One quick point I wanted to make on the nice point that you made about digital reputation. I think we have seen that digital technology has incredible reach and it has incredible speed. So we call it 24/7 customer. So customer at some point in time, different part of the world, somebody is benefiting from your product or service. We are living in that kind of era. But the reputation that is purely managed using the reviews and AI, ML and digital technology can take you high very fast. But the reality is that if you don't deliver on the promise, it can get you down also in the fast. So that's a limited point I wanted to make, that it is a digital or technology advancement are always built on a strong platform of innovation, which is what will keep your product ahead in the race.
Add a little bit here.
Your innovation you
Sure.
have been doing.
So I'm basically a big believer in fundamentals, right? So as you said, things come, they can, bring a lot of volatility up and down. So one element which is important is trust. Yeah. So if your brand is able to build trust, and trust really lasts long, right? And how do you build trust? So a brand is a relationship. Like we human beings have relationships. So what do you need in a relationship to build trust? Let's say there are 3-4 things. First is communication. You got to be, whoever you want to build a relationship with, you got to be able to communicate with them, right? So brand needs to be able to communicate with the target segment or the consumer and connect with them. How do you do that? By understanding their needs, understanding their aspirations. So communication. Second is transparency and openness. So if you are built on transparency and openness, you'll very easily build trust, which means the consumer is able to understand what you stand for. Yeah? What does this brand stand for? What do I stand for? If I'm transparent about that, then I'm understood. And hence, that kind of trust is built. Third, I would say is promises made, promises kept. So whatever brand promise you made, as long as you deliver on that, and over time, that's how you will build trust. And final, I would say, in any relationship, what is also important is consistency. You trust a person who you know how he will react or she will react. If you don't know how the person is going to react, you can't trust that person. Similarly, a brand has to build consistency by behaving in a similar way, with similar kind of equity, similar kind of stuff over time. So these few things which are important for a human relationship, as well as for a brand relationship, which will help build trust. And then there are various ways to build reputation or mar reputation, because trust can be broken very fast. It takes years to build it. So focus on brand trust.
And I think there is fairness.
Yeah.
And I think the last point to your thing is there has to be fairness, which goes long way in building trust. You can't be opportunist, because you have early mover advantage, you can't quite try to squeeze out your customer. So I think fairness is also very important in building trust.
Shishel, would you like to share any experience based on, whatever discussion we are having, that C2C, that is, concept to customers, and in between the innovation, So would you like to share your own experience you have had in your organization?
Sure. So currently at Cipla, while we've been one of the market leaders in the respiratory segment, and we sell possibly the world's highest inhalers across. But along with it, that there is also a need to look at how are we really going to solve the customer or the consumer issue here. So what you see as a sales and marketing effort, a lot of is also driven by customer-centric approach. So Cipla's ethos is caring for life, and the entire thing that we've built along with the sales and medico marketing function is also how do we address that with the patient pool. So Cipla today runs an initiative called Breathe Free, which is possibly the largest patient service or patient support program in Asia right now. And we are also doing a lot of, going to the consumer and explaining why this is more essential. And it's not about the brand, but it's about the entire category itself. Because being a leader, I think that's our role to really expand the category by bringing in the right awareness. So a lot of efforts have gone in to just ensure that, the right information of why to be used, what is to be used, and if things go wrong, what is to be done, which is also more critical, especially in the healthcare thing. So a lot of such issues, have been dealt with when we start looking at the patient and keeping the patient as the center of everything that we do.
When we, so over to you. When we talk about, why to use or how to use, do you think that the connectedness, the equation or that algorithm is being changed between the customer and the service provider?
So when to use and how to use a product, I think
Do you think that we nowadays we need to educate more than we used to earlier, and that's the vehicle of getting connected to the customers? The product is not a product anymore; it is mostly a service now.
yeah, so a lot again depends on which medium am I choosing to reach out. And of course, because there are a lot of competitors in the market too, and like
Yeah, your
Sir
experience,
rightly
if you
mentioned.
can share.
So from that perspective, it is very important for us to sort of understand who my consumer is and what kind of, sort of platform will reach them better, and at the same time, then how would I communicate with them? So from that perspective, also my other point of, in terms of digital era and traditional era, so that comes into factor here where although in last 2 years we did not see traditional at all, and a lot of brands who were not realizing the power, because we work with startups, we work with mid-level brands, and we work with few large brands also. So we faced that challenge earlier where to sort of tell them about how important digital was comparatively a challenge, which it is not today, right? So suddenly everybody moved to digital. But as soon as the digital, as soon as the market opened, now suddenly we're back to realizing that even traditional is as important. So we've gone back to working backwards on our media buying plans for newspapers, for television, because that also plays a very important role in building the trust for the brand, right? Like today, in the morning, there were some ads played. We remember them because they were constantly played at a medium that was available in a household. Even though we've moved to digital watching, still in a house when TV is on or when you're watching cricket, there are these brands that are constantly hammering, what they stand for, and you can't afford but miss that, which when you look at digital platforms, I mean, in a day you see 20 ads. What do you remember? So from that perspective, I mean, that again, both the platforms become very, very important.
Yeah. Yes.
Sanjay sir, if you allow, I think we can now open the floor for students to ask question, and maybe 2 question is what
Yeah, please.
we can take. Anybody who has a question for any of our panelists? 1 question per speaker. Okay. So now you have 5 opportunities, 1 question per speaker. Students, please take the name of the panelist for whom you have a question and then go on. Okay, so we have a girl here. Please pass on the mic, please.
Good afternoon, esteemed panel members. My name is Prachi Patil, and my question is for Neha ma'am. So, ma'am, in your opinion, what are the most important qualities that a digital marketer should have in him or her?
Thank you, Prachi. So I think when you begin with, it's truly that hunger to be able to do better. And when we say better, because like I said, digital today, everybody has access, right? So every brand today can spend as low as possible to be on digital and run digital ads. So what comes, I mean, what becomes very important is how creatively the person can think. And that comes from how the person can understand the audience, right? If I don't know what my TG would like, I may never be able to create something that will enable that engagement from the audience. So for a digital marketer, first and foremost, the understanding of brands very, very specifically, and then that hunger to do more. And of course, the person should be able to look at the market on a day-to-day basis to understand what are others doing. And which, I think somebody had mentioned earlier, it never happens when you're sitting, even if you're on your phone, you still need experiences outside that one room that you're working on. You need to have conversations. And like Vishal said, that one seat is always for the customer. So that part always has to be kept in mind. So when you're starting off, I think don't think about any of these aspects. Just pick the company you want to work for, and when you'll be starting, you will have mentors who will groom you. Just be open to learning, and I think that's when you'll realize what you're really good at, because even digital has various aspects, right? You have a strategist, you have a content writer, you have a copywriter, you have a visualizer, you have an ORM team, so you'll figure out where your strengths lie then. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just small thing I would like to add. Excellent answer. But one thing I would like to add is that, which I've seen in a lot of digital marketers recently, is that they tend to stay just in digital world. Staying in the room, on the phone, and being in the virtual world. For any marketeer, the most important thing is customer centricity and consumer centricity. Going out and actually seeing how your category works, how the target audience actually lives his life, and how they buy, what is the buying process, that must be done for you to really get a grip on the category and the consumer behavior. In addition to whatever else you said as right creativity, understanding technology, etc., etc. So that is a must for any marketer. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Any other question for any of our panelists, students? Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon, respected panel members. It was wonderful gaining insight on this topic. My question is for Deshmukh sir. Sir, in today's generation, like more companies, pharmaceutical companies are going through social media and e-commerce platform for the medium of like digital marketing. Do you think like do you think like consumerization is for short term, or is it here to stay?
Well, that's a very interesting question, especially in healthcare, because there is a lot of stake right at the patient level. And therefore, I think it's a step that we'll have to take very, very cautiously, right? It's very easy to not do things at this point of time, but also in the given world, it'll be foolish not to do things. Let's say in the, for example, social media and digital world that we're talking about. So if the key here are two things. One, about the right insights. What is the problem that you're trying to solve from a consumer end? And two is about being genuine. If you're able to hold on to these two things, I think not just digital, be it any other platform, even physical or phygital, I think with these core essentials, you could possibly do it right.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Yes.
Good afternoon, panel members. I would like to ask a question to Vishal sir. So while creating a brand trust, there is always a criticism about deluge of misinformation about how online businesses collect and use personal data. So how does a business tackle this challenge?
See, it depends on brand to brand. Definitely, there is a data privacy issue. It's not only when you do online purchase, but But my dear friend, I don't know if you know this, the question you have asked me, Google is listening to that right now. In fact, I was talking to my wife 2 days back, and we were discussing about buying a shoe for my son. And in 10 minutes, I start seeing school shoes ads, boss. And it was over the phone. Now, boss, see, you can't do anything about it unless and until the government puts a hammer on it. Ki boss, you can't do this, which is not going to happen because. And my friend sitting here, he's an expert on digital world, and he has already demonstrated that conventional marketers like me will become dinosaurs. So I feel going forward, like you have these viruses and antiviruses. Right now, we are not able to crack this. Going forward, yes, there are those silly disclaimers that you'll not use my data and all that nonsense. But they use your data all the time. That's the biggest lie, first and foremost. So that challenge, both legally and for the brand, it has to be dealt at two levels. One, you need to frame a very hard policy on, or as an organization, how you want to deal with that. And two, from legislation perspective, unless until the industry comes out with some legal framework around it, it is not going to happen. In Raymond, especially, like we don't store your data, but knowingly, unknowingly, if you tick, the box that I would like to receive proportional messages, then at least you will receive 10 messages in a week about Raymond products and promotions. So that's how it is actually.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, students? If you don't have, then maybe I can go ahead asking a question to Deepak sir, Ravinder sir, any of you can answer. So when brand start losing trust, for example, some years ago, these software companies were accused of having high level of pesticides, and we all remember what was happening to Maggie a few years back. How do they come back to the original relationship which they once shared with their consumers? So your insight on this, please.
I think that's a great question. And at some point in time, I think every brand will have this trust issue or a challenge. Let me call it a challenge. So I think what is required is a candid assessment. What is the root cause analysis of the problem that is being discussed? And that root cause analysis often is done through third party, because if you do an internal assessment of root cause analysis, there are interested parties doing it, right? So there are independent agencies who can help you do the root cause analysis. You have to be, and I think Mr. Gulati spoke about trust, and this is where it boils down to, that if you are found wanting with respect to your proposition, which means you could not meet your value proposition, it's best to be honest, admit what was wrong, and then actually take corrective measures so as to reinstill the confidence. Now, which also amounts to taking few steps back only to surge ahead really, really fast. And I think to be able to do that, companies or marketeers behind the operations all the time do what they call as customer experience surveys, right? In those experience surveys, they try to find out what are customers' stated needs, unstated needs, needs of today, needs of tomorrow, and obviously a dipstick of perception study, which means how he thinks you are able to fulfill his aspirations or requirement. So once you are doing all this, some challenges of this nature, and these challenges can emerge for the reasons outside your control also. It could be some global supply chain issue, just as an example, or it could be to do with some global mandates or regulations that are kicking in, right? So some of these things the brands will always face as a challenge. But who wants an easy ride? I mean, these are the things, marketeers are up for it. What you see, what is being discussed here is ahead on the stage marketing. There is a marketing that's going at the back, which is trying to prepare companies' readiness for tomorrow's challenges today. So I think there is a comprehensive approach taken there, and digital technology is only going to help you prepare for that, which is in the form of big data, data analytics, your ability to actually churn the customer profile, identify their needs. So much is talked about Google and Facebook. One wants to know everything you want to know, and another wants to know everyone you know. So I think based on that, they are putting their delivery models. And at the background, we as marketeers, instead of trying to see them as challenge, have to see how we can collaborate with them and devise our offerings to make it future-proof. I think that would be my 2 cents. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
if I
I'll
can add
just-
to that.
Sorry, somebody say?
Sorry. Just to add to that, I think Mondelez is a great example of this. When the entire issue happened with their chocolates, they were very honest to admit that there are gaps, and just not admit, they took the right measures to change the packaging, and then they got in the entire advertisement with Amitabh Bachchan trying to tell them the changes that have happened to win back the customers. I think that's a great
Johnson
example.
and Johnson has a great story in
Yes.
mid 70s when one of the drug they had to recall, and then they thought the market would come crashing and heaven will.
So just adding to that, Volkswagen also. So
Volkswagen as well after that scam, yeah.
So there is a, I would say, like you described, so there is a short-term issue. So you have to understand, there is a short-term handling strategy and a long-term brand handling strategy. So for short-term, you obviously have to figure out what the core problem is and find the solution and address the solution. And honesty becomes very important there. But long-term, if your brand values are there and you've been building brand trust consistently, which is what Cadbury has been doing, which is what Maggie has been doing. So if your brand values are intact, every crisis, I would say, is an opportunity. So even in that crisis, you are able to rebuild the trust by honestly admitting and then putting in the right measures to correct it. So that's how I guess finally brand values bring you back to that. Yeah.
Thank you, sirs. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. It was a very enriching session, and I believe you all will agree with me. Interesting perspective on so many different aspects. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Sanjay sir, for conducting this panel discussion. Thank you.